Hello, my name is James, and this is another video for my YouTube channel. I want to talk today a little bit about my experiences with agoraphobia and social anxiety, as well as kind of one of the things that was a catalyst for me to get out of that. By the way, I do want to mention I am not a therapist. Do not try to get your therapy from people from YouTube. If you really need a therapist, you need to go find one. I have worked with a few different therapists throughout the years. Actually, I think like 8 or 9 different therapists throughout the years. I highly recommend it. I think it's very beneficial, especially if you're working through traumatic issues, or for me, like one of the things that I worked through was deconverting from a very fundamentalist form of religion, Christian fundamentalism, evangelical Christian fundamentalism. So, you know, if you need therapy, go get therapy, because that is a thing that can really help. Now, today, I'm not really talking necessarily about therapy. I'm talking about, while I was working with a therapist, I actually just intuitively came up with a solution for my social anxiety and agoraphobia. And I will tell you, at the point, like at my worst point with agoraphobia, what had happened was I was living in Kansas City, Missouri. I didn't really experience any agoraphobia at all in Kansas City because it was a big enough city to where if I went out, I could be anonymous if I wanted to. Like, I didn't have to interact with people that I knew. And I could really curate my own social experiences. You know, I had a big group of friends, but I could really curate the experiences that I had with them. It wasn't like, now I live in a small town where if I go out, I will more than likely see someone that I know or knows me, or, you know, it's just, there's more of a chance of running into people in situations where maybe I don't want to be social. And so what ended up happening was when I moved, first of all, moving can be traumatic. It can be a traumatic experience, and it was for me, especially since I moved from a big city to a small town that I grew up in. What had happened was my dad got really sick, and I could actually make a video about that because it was actually a really neat experience. But and not that he got sick, that's not neat, but what the reconciliation that we experienced, and then me moving here was a really neat experience for both myself and my husband. It was just a very positive experience overall. But he got sick, he passed away, and we always intended on moving back to Kansas City, which we did for a very short time, but then my mom really couldn't handle my dad being gone. You know, they'd been married for many years, and so we decided to move completely to Michigan. And once we completely moved to Michigan is when I had a really difficult time with social anxiety and agoraphobia. And at one point, it was so bad, I couldn't really leave the house. I mean, I just didn't leave the house for months. And if I did, like, let's say I needed to go to the grocery store, I would actually go out of town. I know it sounds crazy to me now, but like, I would go out of town to go to a different store, so I knew I wouldn't run into somebody that maybe I knew or whatnot. So, but what ended up happening was I just realized that that was not really a sustainable lifestyle. And I'm actually a pretty social person, and I didn't have any means for expressing, you know, myself socially. There aren't any LGBT affirming churches here, even though I deconverted from religion, but like, you know, a lot of times you can find an already pre-made social structure in churches. And so I kind of, you know, looked at that avenue, and there just wasn't any real way for me to create a social environment, social structure for myself. So what I did was I realized one day that I just couldn't sustain living, you know, just living as a recluse, because it's just not my personality style. And I had cards. I had these affirmation cards that I had used for myself, and just I had this idea intuitively, to go out and hand out cards if anytime I felt anxious, to hand out cards and have people read the cards to me, and then when they read the cards to me, I just considered everyone my teacher, you know, like that this encounter was just to teach me something. So I started with the grocery store, and I can remember when I first started going to the grocery store on my own without my husband being with me. And I know this sounds really silly, but I'm sure that there are also people who understand this, so this is why I'm talking about it. But the first few times I went to the store, I would sit out in the car for an hour doing affirmations. And the one affirmation that I used the most was, I'm safe in the universe and all of life loves and supports me. I'm safe in the universe and all of life loves and supports me. Because I had to psych myself up to going into the store. And then I would carry cards around with me. And anytime I would feel really anxious, I would walk up to a complete stranger and I would spread them out, and they would pick a card and I'd say, well, what does it say? And so this one says, it is safe to ask for help. And on the other side it says, when you fear you can't do it all by yourself, maybe it's a sign you don't have to. When you stop trying to do it by yourself, help appears. That's actually a really good one for this particular topic. But so what I found happened, like the very first few people that I did this with, one person like just started crying, and they were like, this is exactly what I needed to hear. Like, you don't, and they would tell, and people would just tell me these stories. And I started doing this enough to where I would run into the same people that would get a card from me. I would run into them later, and some people didn't understand what they got at first, but then later on they'd be like, you would not believe what happened. And they would tell me that, I had one lady tell me she had it on her dashboard, and I think she got fired from a job or something, and she looked down and the card was exactly what she needed to hear. And she realized that this experience, the momentum had already been created, but the card actually helped her get through that. So that was one thing, and there's lots of different types of cards. I mean, I have these wonderful cards. These are one of my favorites. They're very small, and the writing on them is very small. So sometimes if I'm doing it with older people, it's not like these cards, which are very easy to read. The writing on these are quite small. Yeah, I mean, even like for the cards. So like today I choose hope. But they're really, really beautiful cards, and I like carrying these around. They're very small. They fit in my pocket. These are by Alana Fairchild. These square ones are actually a mix of several different cards. I have Robert Holden's Life Loves You cards in this one, Louise Hay's Power Thought cards, I Can Do It cards, and How to Love Yourself cards. The How to Love Yourself cards are like my new favorites. They they just recently came out. And they look like this. And one of the reasons why I like this is because the font's easy to read. Some of Louise's older decks, some of the fonts are not as easy to read for younger people. I don't know why, but like for younger people, it's difficult to read cursive, I've noticed. So that's one of the reasons why I like these new ones, is because the fonts are a lot easier for people to read. So, I mean, if you're interested in doing something like this, and I will tell you, this is just a catalyst to my healing process. In fact, I started doing this, and then a few months later, I ended up speaking at an event with a couple hundred people. And like I said, I was agoraphobic. I really was afraid of groups. I was afraid of people. And I mean, so that was essentially a miracle. And there's a whole miracle story associated with that maybe I'll share in another video. If you're interested, please leave in the comments that you're interested in hearing about that. But yeah, I just, the most recent, not the most recent time that I spoke, but recently, this past year, I spoke in front of a group of 500 people. And so going from agoraphobic to really being just open and being able to actively engage with people is a pretty amazing thing for me personally. And I'm not saying this is an answer for everyone. I'm saying this is something that helped me. And you don't have to be agoraphobic to do this. I just feel like, if you want to spread love in the world, find what works best for you to share that love, to heal the planet. Because one of the things the main reason why I do this now, and I continue to do it, is because I recognize that this is just a very easy way for me to contribute to the healing of our planet, to contribute in a loving way to the people around me and the strangers. And it's amazing. Now I have people running across grocery stores saying, "Hey, card guy," and it's kind of a silly thing. I know it sounds really silly, but it's also very profound, and I've just had some really amazing experiences with this. So I would recommend anybody trying it out. If you go on Amazon and just type in affirmation cards. There's a ton of different affirmation cards. I personally prefer these square ones. There's also a deck by, and I actually just finished giving the deck, like the whole deck away, one at a time. But Gabrielle Bernstein has a deck called The Universe Has Your Back. I loved that deck. I've actually went through two boxes of it. It is one of my favorite decks to give away. It's more spiritual than the affirmation cards. It has more of a spiritual side to it, but it just really seems to resonate with people. That particular deck. Another thing that I do is, sometimes I don't carry around the cards. Sometimes I carry around this little bag, and it has pocket stones in it. And what I have people do is I have people reach into the bag and pull out a crystal. So like this is amethyst, and then I'll tell them what the crystal means, and then they can keep the crystal. And these pocket stones, you can actually buy them in bulk fairly inexpensively. I have so many crystals, like I've just been collecting them for years. I have so many that I'm really not going to run out. Even if I started giving them away every day for like the next few months, I probably still wouldn't run out. But this is another idea, if especially if you really resonate with crystal healing and crystal energy, that may be something that you can do. I just really recommend giving of yourself, being of service. There's a lot of talk in metaphysical communities about the law of attraction, and that's a great thing. I actually do really resonate with that teaching, but I also resonate with the idea that if you wake up in the morning and you approach life with, how do I serve? What does that attract into your life via the law of attraction? It attracts the universe saying to you, how can I serve? Which means that every resource that you need is provided when you're in a state of service to the planet, service to others. And it's not in a place of I know some people overdo it. They give of themselves too much. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what is your gift that you can contribute in a loving way that doesn't wear you out. That doesn't, that's important too. The reason why the cards and the crystals are such a good thing for me is because I don't feel like it pulls my energy away. Whereas if I were volunteering or doing something else, maybe that would not be ideal for me because it would drain me. This energizes me. This keeps me going. This is something that I started doing because I just needed an answer to my social anxiety and my agoraphobia. And again, I worked with a counselor, and I was certainly dealing with the emotional constructs that were contributing to my experiences related to those issues. But this came to me intuitively as my answer. And again, you don't have to have social anxiety or agoraphobia to do something like this. Just find a way to connect. I mean, we're in a society where there's so much disconnection. Where it's almost like just smiling at people is like your good deed for the day. And it's like, really? Come on, go find a way that you can actively contribute, and you'll be amazed at how much the universe, when you're willing to position yourself in such a way that you're dedicated to the healing of the planet, that you're dedicated to the healing and the well-being of the people that come into your life, even if it's just a stranger for a few minutes. When you dedicate yourself to that, it is amazing to see how the universe, I don't want to say pays you back, because I never started doing this to receive any kind of payback, but there is definitely what you give out comes back to you multiplied, and there is a real residual effect when you position yourself in service to others. So I don't want to keep rambling on about this, but I just wanted to share this as kind of like, to discuss agoraphobia, both in how I use crystals, how I use cards, in a way that connects me to the people around me, including strangers, and how it helped satiate my anxiety. And like I said, now I go out and people ask me for cards. They're like, oh, it's the card guy. Hey, do you have a card for me today? And that's kind of cool to just kind of be known for the guy that lifts people's spirits, the guy that, I mean, it's just a neat experience to be the person that that people kind of like expect to feel good after they encounter you, you know. So anyway, I'm gonna leave it at that. I love you all. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you have suggestions about more videos, if you're interested in topics like these, please let me know, and I look forward to doing more videos in the future. Please like, subscribe, all that stuff that people say on YouTube videos. This is totally a new channel, so I think I've got like 6 people that watch my videos so far. Yippee, but hopefully that will change. I mean, I have no ego in this. I'm just really making videos in hopes that it will connect and resonate with the people who need to hear them. So I mean, like, I don't care if it's 6, I don't care if it's 600, I don't care if it's 6,000. I just really, I feel like we have a lot to learn from each other, and I realized that I went through some experiences that maybe people are going through, and possibly something that I could say could help them through their experiences. So again, thank you so much for watching. Love, light, and peace.